Ashley, I unmute 2801, correct?
She dropped out of the call.
Oh, commissioners, we're live.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Vice Chair Eakins, and I would like to welcome you to the April 14, 2021 Historic Resources Commission meeting. The HRC is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by North Carolina general statutes, the City of Asheville's Unified Development Ordinance, and Buncombe County Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for citizen certificates of appropriateness for alterations, demolitions, new construction, and other work within historic districts, or for the alteration and demolition of historic landmarks and other duties, including preliminary review of subdivisions as specified in the ordinances for the HRC. All commissioners and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through commission meetings a bit differently than normal. We are streaming live on the city's virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, as well as through the link on the HRC webpage. We also have an option for the public to listen live by telephone by dialing 855-925-2801 and entering code 9384. Welcome to those of you joining us today. I will now ask the commission members who are participating to introduce themselves. I'm Vice Chair Eakins. Commissioner Mercedes.
Hello.
Commissioner Gardner.
Hi, everyone.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Hello.
Is Commissioner Lazarus present? Commissioner Mitchell.
Good afternoon.
Commissioner Sprang.
Hello.
Commissioner West.
Hello.
And carved up Commissioner Vaughn.
Hey there. Welcome.
To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud and ask for a roll call vote, for each vote. First, we'll consider the minutes of the March 10 meeting of the HRC. The minutes include findings of fact and conclusions of law for certificates of appropriateness. In the fifth action item, I think the name of the applicant, O'Neill, I think after the apostrophe, it should be an uppercase N. Anybody have any other corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved as amended.
Second, Mitchell.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
You have to do it by roll call, Bill.
Sorry. Okay, Commissioner Mercedes.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Eakins, aye. We will now begin the evidentiary hearings for the items listed on the agenda. As a quasi-judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of the application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and standards for the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the facts. The commissioners in voting for an item will not have a fixed opinion, nor not susceptible to change, have a conflict of interest, have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. Rules for speaking: this meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to interested parties who wish to provide comment or testimony regarding the proposal. Note that for hearings with numerous participants, the commission is not required to listen to evidence that is unduly repetitious or information that is irrelevant or immaterial. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference or opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, I'll administer the oath to all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. I don't know who's here, but
Mr.
if you-
Eakins,
Yes.
this is Attorney Ashley. It may be helpful to swear in as we go along per matter. So call
Very
the
good.
matter, anyone to speak on that particular matter and swear them in. And then thereafter we can, because we have quite an agenda tonight. So if we were to swear everyone in, it might be helpful to go one matter at a time.
Okay. So the first matter is 141 Cumberland Avenue. I should point out that holding this meeting virtually under Session Law 2020-3, which was passed as part of the state's emergency pandemic declaration, that all interested parties must be given notice and consent to the remote meeting, and interested parties may object to holding the meeting remotely. So I would like at this time to swear in the applicant, Joe Stevenson. I can see you're here, and anyone else who intends to speak either to the procedural aspect of this, that is whether to hold the meeting remotely or not, or to the substance.
Vice Chair
Anybody besides
Eakins?
Ms. Stevenson?
Myself, Vice Chair Eakins, Alex.
Yes.
I need to be sworn in, and then we'll have to swear in any callers as they call in. They're not actually present in the Google Meet.
Okay. So let's see. So that's Ms. Stevenson and Ms. Cole. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is will be truthful and accurate to the best of your ability?
I do.
I do. Shannon, do you need to be sworn in?
Well, out of an abundance of caution, I will be. So I do as well.
Okay, good. So let's proceed to,
Mr. Eakins,
yes,
it's Attorney Ashley again.
yes, Council.
We've been made aware that there are interested parties, people who have standing neighbors, have emailed that they may object to this being heard as a remote meeting. And so I would advise that we start with just that procedural question before the applicant goes into the presentation on the subdivision to see if we are able to move forward with a remote hearing. So,
Okay, and Council, it's your opinion that any objection to holding the meeting remotely may not be made by email, but must be made at the virtual meeting?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, is there anybody on the line to, or otherwise present to, who is an interested party who wishes to speak to the procedural question?
Mr. Chair, we have 5 callers in the queue, and I will bring in the first caller now.
Very good.
Vice Chair Eakins and Commissioners. This is David Stanley. I live at 138 Cumberland Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Stanley, is the testimony you're about to give, do you swear or affirm that it will be the truth and accurate to the best of your ability?
I do.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
This proposed subdivision of 141 Cumberland Avenue is controversial. I and many of our neighbors have issues with the subdivision as presented and feel that a project that generates such strong feelings should not be in the Zoom format. I think this should be postponed, and so do our neighbors, until you have a live meeting, which I assume will be next month or June, given the progress of the vaccination program. I have many comments on this subdivision, but I would prefer to make them in person, as would my neighbors. So I respectfully request that this item be postponed until such time as you resume live meetings.
Mr. Stanley, thank you. Could you please remind me why you're an interested party? Do you live next door to this property or what?
I live opposite. I live catty corner within a pitching wedge of the.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stanley. Let's hear from other interested parties.
Hi, my name is Sarah Yamada, and I live at 182 Cumberland Avenue, and I also would like this to be an in-person or different formatted meeting.
Okay, and Ms. Yamada, you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in front of this commission will be the truth and accurate to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for making your views known on the procedural aspect of this. Is there another caller?
Mr. Eakins,
Yes.
you may want to clarify, as you did previously, where her property is in relation to this, just to establish standing.
Ms. Yamada, where's 182 Cumberland in connection to this, the property subject to the application?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we disconnected Ms. Yamato after you asked for the next caller.
Okay, well, we know she's at 182 Cumberland, and we can relate that to the property being that's subject to the application. Who's the next caller?
Bringing in the caller now.
Hi, this is Eric Harjula. I'm at 135 Cumberland Ave, which is immediately to the south of 141.
Okay, Mr. Harjula,
I would
you hang on, please. I need to swear you.
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
And would you just repeat again your address and tell us where that is in relation to 141 Cumberland?
My address is 135 Cumberland Ave. It is directly to the south. And I am calling in to also object to the virtual format in favor of an in-person meeting, especially in light of how close we are to when that might be feasible in the kind of the significance of this proposal.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there another caller?
Yes, bringing in the next caller now.
This is Jackie Allen. I'm at 156
Allen,
Cumberland.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the best of your ability?
I certainly do. Thank you for asking. I'm at
Okay,
156
Ms. Allen,
Cumberland.
and your address is what again, and where is that in relation to 141 Cumberland?
I'm at 156 and I'm right across the street.
Thank you. Okay, please proceed to address the issue of whether this meeting should be virtual or not?
I object to the virtual meeting and would like an in-person meeting, as will just about every neighbor we have.
Thank you. Are there other callers?
There's one remaining caller.
Hi there. My name is Lauren Clark, and I live at 135 Cumberland Ave, right next door.
Thank you. Ms. Clark, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the extent of your knowledge and ability?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, what's your contribution to the subject of whether this meeting should be held virtually or not?
Thank you. I object to the virtual format of this and am in favor of discussing at an in-person meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further callers?
One more has just entered the queue.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Brown.
Hi, Ms. Brown. Would you please just let us swear you in? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and accurate to the extent of your knowledge and ability?
Yes, I do.
And you are an interested party because where you live, I assume? Please
Yeah,
just
I live
state,
at
your address
I live
and
at
how that relates to 141 Cumberland Avenue.
I live at 150 Cumberland Avenue, and it's right across from the apartment building in question.
Okay, what do you wish to contribute to the discussion of whether the meeting should be held virtually or not?
I object to the virtual meeting format and would like to have an in-person meeting.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown. Have we any other callers?
Thank you.
No, that is the last call. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. One more has entered the queue.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rachel Reese. I live at 180.
Ma'am, please.
Yes.
Just need to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the extent of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay, and you were stating your address, which I assume will establish
Yes.
that you are an interested party. You'll tell me where that address is in relation to the property subject to the application.
Okay. I live at 188 Flint Street. It is directly across the alley, along Short Magnolia, across the back of the apartment, the property 141.
Okay, and what is your position as to whether the application should be considered virtually or in person?
I believe it should be considered in person.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the queue?
That was our last caller.
Okay, council, where do we proceed from here? I would assume that the objections stand on their own and
The applicant has the opportunity to comment, so we have not heard from the applicant yet as to these objections.
Ms. Stevenson?
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Stevenson, and I'm representing 141 Cumberland LLC. We do understand that the community has concerns, as often occurs with any kind of change. We plan to reach out and offer opportunities to learn more about the project and to answer any questions and concerns folks may have, so they feel more comfortable about the review of the project in a virtual setting. We'd like to do that because although comments were made that this may be next month or the following month, we actually have no kind of concrete idea of when a hybrid model or in-person format will be a viable option. So we're just trying to do a little bit of community outreach to help folks feel a little more comfortable. And as I said, just answer any questions and concerns.
Hey, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Ms. Stevenson.
Mr.
Somebody?
Yeah, it's Benjamin Mitchell. Just wanted to put it on the record that I have a pre-existing relationship with Ms. Stevenson. It will not affect my objectivity to the extent I'm asked to render some sort of decision here.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Ms. Ashley, do we at this point simply postpone the hearing until such time as it may be held in person, or do we require some sort of vote?
We do require a vote, but I do need to advise you that because of the session law 2020-3, which you mentioned, Mr. Eakins, it does require that in quasi-judicial hearings that are held remotely require the consent of all parties with standing, and those parties also have to have notice. So in light of that, to comply with the law, I cannot advise you to move forward with this matter, and instead you would have to adjourn it to such time that we can have an in-person hearing, which, as the applicant stated, we do not know. The city has yet to have any in-person quasi-judicial hearings. We have not had one in more than a year. Or we could also continue it or reconvene it if the parties come to the conclusion that having this in a remote format is acceptable. So that would be my recommendation to you, to adjourn it until one of those two scenarios can occur.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ashley. Commissioners, is there any discussion? If not, is there a motion to recess the application for 141 Cumberland Avenue until such time as the meeting may be held in an in-person format or in such format, including virtual format, as the parties may agree?
I just wanted to state that I take it as true, and when someone says they're directly adjacent, that they are an interested party. I haven't looked at the definition of that, Janice, but it seems to me that someone who does not share a boundary with the subject property may not be an interested party.
It may be true that not all the callers had standing, and we don't typically go into an analysis of to what degree they have standing, but certainly neighbors that are adjacent to the property, at which we've had several callers, do have standing and have raised it.
So therefore, I will make a motion to take this matter into recess or otherwise adjourn, whatever the proper terminology is in this instance.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Is there a second?
Seconded by Commissioner Sprang.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes.
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins. Aye. Ayes have it. We will now consider the application, which was continued from our March 10th meeting, for 10 Biltmore Plaza. Is the applicant or her representative present? And thank you. And we will need to swear you in. So present, we've got to be sworn in. We've got Emily McMakin.
Correct.
Correct me if I mispronounce your name. And Sherry Cajola?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So.
Mr. Vice Chair, it's Benjamin Mitchell again. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please.
I did last month. I need to recuse myself from this matter. Ms. Cagiola is under my direct supervision as a real estate agent.
Will somebody make a motion to permit Commissioner Mitchell to recuse himself for this application?
So moved, Vaughn.
Is there a second?
Seconded, Sprang.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded. We'll call the roll. Commissioner Versates,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. Oh no, you're recused. Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. Okay, let me proceed to swear in the two applicants. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Okay. Staff?
Thank you, Vice Chair Eakins and members of the commission. As you all know, this is the second go around for this application. We did look at it last month. Since the initial submittal, there have been several revisions to this project. So hopefully we're in a better place today. So the main change to the application is as you can see from the renderings, that the proposal they've removed the garage doors from the proposal and are now just proposing a simple shed roof that will attach to the existing hip roof that wraps the building. So it would just be down the image that's down on the right side of the building. So that that does not give me any concern. I've added some more images in here just to show you what it will look like. This is the center images looking at it straight on from Brook Street. And I think this is a much more appropriate solution to adding a little bit more covered seating space or dining space to the exterior of the building versus what was being proposed before. The other main change to this application is that this area that's shown on the site plan it's kind of hard to see in these small drawings, I'm sure, but if you have your packet open, you can probably zoom in a little bit. But currently there's a grass lawn that is between the sidewalk and the internal walkway within the site. So they're using that area right now for informal dining, to accommodate more tables during the pandemic. So they're proposing to more formalize that patio and pave it with stamped concrete pavers. So per my feedback, they've added, we talked about this initially when we met to talk about the project. They've added some landscaping to soften the patio adjacent to the sidewalk. The only issue that I have noted, just added it, this is an image of the paving that they want to use, and I may not have included it in my slides, but at the very bottom of the patio where it's adjacent to the sidewalk facing Brook Street, there is a little low retaining wall that wraps the site. Let me see if I can find a helpful image. So they are proposing a railing along the wall there.
We are not.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
There's no, I saw that note. There's no railing. It is shown as, there was initially, and you said you can't do the railing, so we went and did the plants.
I gotcha. Okay, because there was a plan in there that showed the railing, so that's why.
Yeah, that was an initial before we submitted. We took that out and we put the plants in lieu of the railing. For like liquor license reason, you have to have it like a
separation
set area, so that'll give us our like boundaries of where everything's being served.
Okay, good. That makes more sense since that's what the guidelines require. So if you read the design standards, basically they do allow for paved areas in locations like this. To me, this is very different than if we were considering the cottage area where the yards are more part of like the residential style feeling of the district versus here where it is more kind of like has more of an urban quality, more urban and commercial quality. And the guidelines do say that landscaping around paved areas is what is encouraged, as well as using decorative paving materials. So they've checked both of those boxes. The only other thing that I noted in my staff report, and it's difficult to see here, but in the gable end, the half gable end that's exposed on the new shed roof, they're leaving that open. I noted that as a concern. Just, it's not something I think is, a deal breaker by any means. I just wanted to note it to the commission that it's sort of in some way appears maybe less finished. And I would be, interested to hear your thoughts on that, whether or not that's something you have a strong opinion on. I'm imagining, just from going back and listening to the minutes from the last meeting, that the goal is still just to allow as much light into the covered space as possible.
No, actually, I left it open because doing a shed roof with open framing, it's standard to leave it open on the end. Just that's kind of the general detail. But in all reality, closing that off will supply some wind breakage and rain, buffering. So they're design-wise closing that in off just like we are to create the back wall where we're attaching it and covering it in the same site, just continuing it around. That's how the far end, the opposite end of the roof is as it continues. I mean, that's a dumpster over there, so it's, you don't really see it, but it's covered in and then it just has siding on it.
Okay.
And that same detail is perfectly acceptable there as well.
Okay. Well, that was all I had to note to the commission about this application. So if you all have any questions for me, happy to answer.
There was one other thing that we moved the stairs and reduced the size of it per y'all's request. It got shifted over one bay, and then because we don't have the garage doors, we didn't need the 5-foot landing anymore. So I could bring those in 5 feet. So it greatly reduced the size of them also. And we got rid of, now they just have a handrail and guardrail that's just wood and matches. So they are much smaller in scale now. But the stair itself is still concrete.
Thank you, Emily. I had neglected to point that out. I'll try to pull up a rendering where you can more clearly see what she's describing.
Yeah, it's on the floor plan at the bottom left one here.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Cole? Okay, hearing none, it's normal at this time for the applicant to make a presentation. If the applicant's got anything further they'd like to present to the commission?
Nope, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay. We'll now open the floor for public comments. Have we got any members of the public?
Mr. Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, that being the case, we'll close the floor for public comment. Any discussion by commissioners?
I think they addressed our concerns really well from the last meeting. The new design, I think, is much more appropriate.
Any other discussion or comments from the commissioners? Is anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Let's see.
Thank you.
Could you hear that? Was my sound on?
I could hear sound on.
Okay.
Actually, my audio was off. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay. Just finding the page.
Do you see the documents in the folder?
Otherwise, Emily, I
Yeah.
have it open if that
I'm
helps.
scrolling through the documents, but I'm trying to find, okay, here it is. Vice Chairman, based on the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, photographs and plans, 8 pages. Exhibit B, landscaping plan, received February 24th, 2021. Exhibit C, revised drawings and plans, 3 pages, received March 1st, 2021. Exhibit D, section detail, received March 3rd, 2021. Exhibit E, revised drawings and plans, 10 pages, received March 24th, 2021. Is there an Exhibit F?
Nope, that's it.
And the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except, I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to construct new section of shed roof over western portion of existing patio. Shed roof will be finished with GAF timberline asphalt shingles in hickory color and will be tied to existing hip roof that extends around the front elevation of the building. New section of roof will be supported by 6x6 painted wood posts matching the existing. Half gable will be finished with.
You all didn't discuss that. Are you okay with it being open, or do you think it should be finished?
Your motion, Emily, you go ahead and pick.
I would say as shown in drawings. Repair existing concrete flooring surface on upper patio. Construct new red brick stairway extending from the upper level patio into a new decorative stamped concrete patio in front of the building. Stairway handrail will match existing handrails on upper patio. Existing concrete walkway will be removed to construct new patio in front of building. Patio will be screened with landscaping. Remove existing shrubs at base of upper patio. Install a French drain and reinstall the landscaping. Rebuild the existing 24-inch tall deteriorated brick wall at front of property corner in the same configuration as existing. 2 new tulip poplar trees will be planted as required street trees. All work will be in accordance with the attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. Number 2, that the standards of additions to existing buildings found on pages 19 to 21 of Book 3 and site design on pages 23 to 34 and Appendix B, street planting plan on page 51 of Book 1 in the Biltmore Village Historic District Design Review Standards adopted on April 4th, 2010 and amended.
The date is wrong on the, sorry, that's for the Montford. The Montford standards, it's October 1st, 1988.
Okay, adopted on October 1st, 1988. And no amendment? Were used to evaluate this request. Number 3, this application does meet the design guidelines for the following reasons. A, the subject building is non-contributing building in the district. B, the new shed roof covering will not hinder the ability to interpret the design character of the historic period of Biltmore Village. C, the new shed roof covering will be located on the side elevation and will not obscure or damage significant ornament or detail. D, new paved area in front of the building will be constructed of decorative paving and will be screened with landscaping. E, new trees will be consistent with the Biltmore Village landscape plan in terms of species and placement. Number 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Biltmore Village Historic District. Based upon the foregoing finding,
Hang on, is there a second?
Sorry.
Second, Vaughn.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes?
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Based on
Vice
the
Chair
foregoing,
Eakins? Aye. The motion carries.
based
Go
on the
for it.
foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second, Vaughn.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes?
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang?
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion carries. We will now move on to the other item under old business, 281 Pearson Drive. Ms. Cole?
You're on mute, Alex.
Thank you. So this is also the second go around for this application. They have made some changes based on the feedback from the last hearing. The main change you'll notice is the front elevation. They changed the fenestration to address some of the concerns that were noted before. So I think it's a more simplified design that does help it appear more as a front elevation versus a side elevation. I did note as just a question mark to the applicant, the material around the window here. I believe that I got a note from the architect earlier today that it was anticipated to be cement panels just to articulate the corner windows as unique, but he said that they may look at wrapping them with shake siding. So that was just something I wanted to point out as something a little different than what we've seen on new construction applications in the past. So that is just one thing to note to you all. The accessory structure was revised to remove one of the dormers. I still think that the conversation around that is a little bit unfinished. Primarily because, as we pointed out at the last meeting, having pedestrian doors on the second story definitely makes it present more like a second story or a two-story structure. So that is still, I just wanted to leave that conversation open. I think that I noted that the stair wrapping around the accessory structure sort of, in my opinion, it kind of overwhelms it a little bit. But again, that's something that is just open-ended for this discussion that we didn't really get down in the weeds on all the design details. I don't think last time we were more so talking more generally about the front elevation of the primary structure and whether or not the accessory structure presented as a two-story structure. And otherwise, Mr. McDonough sent me a list today of some details that I just needed to get ironed out. So, and I also got an email from the property owner earlier today that their contractor would be emailing me all the outstanding items that I've listed in terms of specifications for doors, mechanical unit, patio material, etc. So those are all things that, are not atypical for staff to review after the approval. So those are all things I've just listed out. So I don't think that I have any other questions or concerns or thoughts to share with you all, but I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Alex, do you think the ADU's visible from the street at all?
I don't think so. You'll be able to see it like just a little bit sticking out the side here, obviously from the primary structure, and I didn't put a site plan in here since there weren't really any issues around that last go around, but I can pull it up. It's pretty far back from the street, and this lot has a lot of mature trees on it. So it wouldn't be very visible if it were visible at all.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering on that ADU, because I went by the one on Cumberland and Chestnut, which a new build, which does that ADU in the back. Do you know which one I'm talking about? That long skinny lot. That one does, you can see that, and it's a beefy 1.5.
Yeah, and there are plenty of examples of accessory structures that are visible from the street, that are just at the end of a driveway. So to me, I don't even if it were completely off to the side, I don't think that would be a challenge. And from a height perspective, I think it's similar to other accessory structures we've approved. So it was it's just the design hadn't really changed, and that was something that in particular Chair Kite, who's not here today, had talked about. There wasn't a lot of people were kind of quiet at the last meeting in the discussion, so it was a lot of her giving comments. So anyways, just sharing that as something that the design hasn't really changed that much, with the exception of the removing one of the dormers from the last go around. So
Any further questions for Ms. Cole? Okay, let's move on to the applicants.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll need to swear you in. Are there other people speaking for the application?
Michael, will it just be you or Lily?
I don't know.
Lillian and Trevor Payne are here too. We're the property owners.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm going to swear the three of you in, and then you can make your presentation. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the best of your ability?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, present away.
Okay. It sounds like I'm not really sure how to attack this, but I think Alex, you brought up you believe the scale of the ADU is within the intention of the guidelines. The guidelines are written to provide a hierarchy between the primary structure and the secondary structure, and I believe we have that. Just as a reminder, we stepped the lower level of the ADU down about 16 inches from the main floor of the house. So it's set below the house, and there's only an 8-foot ceiling in the garage. There's a shallow floor system because it's only a one bay wide garage. And the plate that holds up the rafters on the second floor is at 4'1". So I believe that kind of meets all the definitions of a 1.5 story. And the side elevation that you're looking at right now kind of, to me, shows the hierarchy, which is what I believe the design guidelines were intended for us to meet. There was some discussion about doors on the exterior on the upper floor. We chose to put the stair on the outside of the building, which is a good way to reduce the scale of the ADU. If we were to move the access to the upper floor within the ADU, obviously the ADU would get bigger, which is contrary to what the guidelines are wanting us to do. And obviously, if you have an exterior stair, you gotta have an exterior door. So we are left with an exterior door on one side that I don't believe anyone other than the residents can see. We did remove the dormers on one side that I believe reduced the scale of the roof. I'm not sure if we did change the roof line on the porch. Going back to the main house, there was concern that the wraparound porch roof, I wasn't really clear what the exact concerns were, but in keeping with kind of a Victorian corner porch, we increased the pitch of the that corner screen porch and kind of articulated it more as its own little corner porch. And the lower slope 3 and 12 roof kind of flows around from the front to that porch. So I believe that was maybe what y'all were looking for. And I can't think of any other issues that we felt like we really had to attack. I'm open to questions.
Michael, this is...
Sorry. A couple more things. We there was a roof that connected the house to the garage. And there's a lot of conversation about how that kind of muddied the waters between primary and secondary structure. So we removed that roof. And there was also kind of a fence wall. We called it a fence. It was more like a wall that created some enclosure for that rear courtyard. We removed that as well. So this west side that you're looking at, you can see that there is no structure between the ADU and the primary house.
Michael,
Thanks
this
for
is
the question.
Commissioner. Yeah, this is Commissioner Sprang. Question for you, Michael. So first off, I just want to say that this looks like it addresses a lot of the concerns that we had last time. I think the front with your rows of windows, you've really addressed that well, and breaking that up, I think has had the effect that we wanted it to. Also, regarding the accessory structure, I do agree with Alex that the scale looks appropriate and is scaled well in relationship to the primary structure. I do still have that concern about the stairwell wrapping and the second story door. Last time we had mentioned possibly trying to find some other examples or precedent of an accessory structure that has that same type of upper level exterior door. I was just curious to see if you had happened to find any of those.
Well, I believe I was asked to look for examples, not from the period of significance, but from the period at which the guidelines were amended, I think in 2014 or 15, that were approved by this body. And I don't really know how I go about, I found plenty of examples of doors on second floors, but they were from the period of significance, not since the guidelines were amended. And I could not find anything in the guidelines that actually talked about whether a second story door in an ADU was appropriate or not, or allowed or not. So I'm not, obviously if you have an exterior stair, you're going to have an exterior door. So the guidelines, in my opinion, were about the scale of the ADU, not about fenestration or openings or how you get into that upper floor.
Yeah, I think the concern from the last meeting was that having an upper level door, it makes you think of it as more of a 2-story than a 1.5. But Alex, do you have any input on that particular the precedent of second story doors?
I have no idea how many structures there are that may or may not, that may have second story doors. A lot of times what folks do for that type of question is they'll find examples and then supply them with the addresses, because without that, we can't look at our file to see if there was something that the HRC approved or not. Obviously, there's plenty of examples too that may exist where the HRC didn't approve it at all because it precluded the existence of the HRC or the design standards. The period of significance would be like the historic period. So if there are historic examples that represent this type of situation, those would be certainly welcomed. But if you want to know, Michael, if there are any examples that we were, as we described last time, that have occurred within the last 5 or 6 years since the guidelines were amended, if you wanted to provide those with the addresses, we can certainly try to look in our files to see what information we have. I can't recall any that had doors on the second level, although there may have been, trying to think, there may have been one on Cortland. And I can go try to pull a file on that while y'all are discussing, if it's helpful, just to see how that was approved. But otherwise, it's all been clearly like 1.5 stories, mostly with like a low pitch roof. So like Michael was describing, there was like a more squat kind of building where you access it from.
And it seems to me that during the period of significance, these buildings were only going to be used as, carriage houses. So they would only have entrances on the main lower level
Yeah.
during the period of significance.
Yeah, I think that if there were any, historically larger ones, they were more bays than they were taller. I think there's actually an image in the there could be an image in the design guidelines of an example.
Well, might I add that I think we're getting hung up on something that's not in the guidelines. I think the 1.5 story is about the scale. It's about keeping the roof volume secondary to the primary structure. I think if there was concern about the appearance of the second floor being habitable, it should have been in the guidelines. I think one can make the argument that there are plenty of upper levels of ADUs that are habitable, and they may have large windows, they may have doors, they may have balconies.
It's not about the use necessarily, Michael. Like, the commission doesn't have any purview over whether or not it's a habitable space. I think what the design standards for accessory structures do speak to fenestration and placement of doors and windows. So it is germane to the conversation. Here's the image I was thinking of, not related to this project, but there is an image of a historic accessory building that was a stable. So not exactly what we're talking about here, but there are doors on this upper level.
Well, I guess my point is that where in the guidelines regarding carriage house, garages, and accessory structures, is there any language about trying to avoid the appearance of being able to walk through an opening from that upper floor to the outside, which is what this conversation seems to be about?
No, I think what we're saying is that, and this is what we said last time, is that that having the pedestrian doors on the second story makes it appear more like a 2-story building than it would if there were just windows on the upper story. Does that make sense?
Well, what I'm saying is if we keep the stairs on the outside, you got to have a door outside. If we move the stairs inside, then we increase the scale of the ADU, which is clearly what the guidelines are not wanting us to do. So I think we're taking a nuance that's maybe not in the guidelines and pushing us towards a design strategy that conflicts with what is clearly in the design guidelines we don't want to do. We don't want to increase the scale of this structure to move the stair and the door inside the building.
Excuse me, Mr. McDonough, but except that we're not saying that theoretically, you could just put the stairway inside without increasing that. That reduces the amount of interior space, but this is not simply an either or situation.
Well, it's a 1-bay garage, so in order to park a car and fit a stair, we'd have to widen it a little bit. But again, I'm just saying that item number 6 in the guidelines, where it does talk about 1.5 stories, is in the same paragraph. It's talking about 30% of the scale. So it's, in my opinion, it's all about the scale, and whether or not there's a door on the outside of the upper floor. I don't think the guidelines are really written to address that.
Even though there may not be specifics written in the guidelines, most of our job is to make sure that it looks appropriate to the period. And my point of view would be that in that period, you didn't see any wrapping stairwells around accessory structures. So
well, going back to the example on the corner of Cumberland and Chestnut, if y'all have seen that, the massing of that accessory structure is there, and that is clearly not in keeping with the history of Montfort. That is clearly a separate dwelling. So if the guidelines are written to create a hierarchy between a primary structure that is the owner's residence and a secondary structure that is for a carriage or a car with storage or sleeping space above, it's all about the scale. And so I would argue that this accessory structure is much smaller, whether it has an upper story door or not, than the one that was approved that's under construction.
Well, I don't have any concern about the hierarchy here. I think that you've accomplished that really well. I like the scale of the building, and I think it's appropriate to the home. For me personally, it's just, professionally, I'd say it's just more about the design of a wrapping stairwell. Doesn't seem like something that would fit toward the period of significance. But do any of the other commissioners have an opinion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, quick question. Alex, I don't know how much within earshot you were. Mr. McDonough brought up a property that he says clearly has, Mr. McDonough, maybe you could repeat your point about that property you said that is clearly looks like a residence, even though it's supposed to be accessory structure and it's too big. My question was going to be, is that one that was done pre or post the design guidelines?
It's under construction right now. It's that lot on the corner of Chestnut and Cumberland that was proposed to be subdivided and it was recombined. It's on the northwest corner of Cumberland and Chestnut.
And what about it?
Yeah, are you suggesting, Mr. McDonough, that it has an exterior staircase up to the second story with an exterior door?
Well, what I'm saying is the guidelines don't talk about exterior stairs. They don't talk about exterior doors. They talk about scale. And so our goal was to minimize the scale of the accessory structure because that's what the guidelines are focused on. Whereas the project on the corner of Cumberland Chestnut, they put the stairs inside and therefore the accessory unit is much bigger. And to me, it comes off as being a second primary structure rather than a secondary structure. So,
but doesn't the exterior staircase add to the scale, scale of the building? It's not like we can pretend that it doesn't exist there. Do your measurements take into account the exterior wraparound staircase? I'm just asking the question.
Well, the exterior staircase does not have a roof over it, and the guidelines don't say anything about whether a balcony or deck is appropriate or not on an accessory structure. So again, I'm just asking, where in the guidelines is there any discussion about whether an exterior stair, either on the primary structure or on the secondary structure, is something that the guidelines are intending to discuss?
Well, Michael, I think you have to consider that when we're reviewing major work applications or any application for that matter, we're looking at all elements of design, not just, siding or a chimney or whatever. It's the cohesive elements that make up a building that we're looking at. So the stair is part of the conversation, as are the doors, and there are guidelines specifically related to the doors, to fenestration, as I noted. So, and I'm not saying the doors of themselves are an issue. It just relates back to the building appearing as 2 stories versus if you had windows there, it would appear as a half story, more as a half story in some of our opinion. I don't know if everyone here agrees with that, but that is the point we're trying to make. So we don't have to argue it to death, but if there are other commissioners that do you have opinions that you want to share that might help?
Sorry, Alex, I do have one question that will help inform at least my decision. To what extent, if we approve this, are we setting a precedent where other applicants can come and point to this project and say, you let them do an exterior staircase with a second story entrance? Would we then suddenly be compelled to do that in others where it is either dicier or even more clear cut that it shouldn't be allowed, but that we've got this as a precedent?
Yes, I think that's true for to a large degree. Any decision that might be that you make is setting a precedent to some degree. I will say though that every building design is different in some way, so it's obviously possible that if there were another one where they came in with doors on the second story, it might be far more clear that it was a 2-story building versus a 1-story building, and it would make your decision easier to make or to explain in your reasons when you make the approval. But yes, to answer your question, it would set precedent.
Well, I think just the basic terminology, a 1.5-story building suggests that there's an upper floor that is habitable. Otherwise, it would be a one-story building, and that that specific language, which I actually helped, I was involved in the whole amendment to these guidelines in response to a project on Flint Street. The whole goal was to keep the scale of the accessory units from overpowering the scale of the primary dwelling. So we kept a historic hierarchy between a primary structure and a secondary structure. And it specifically said 1.5 stories to allow for the upper floor to be habitable, but not to appear as a 2-story structure. So whether you're looking at windows on the upper floor or doors on the upper floor, it's perfectly allowable to read the upper level of a 1.5 story as being a habitable space. And if it's habitable, whether there's a door or window, it's a habitable space.
I think that the building is blocked. The ADU is blocked by the primary residence, and same as last month, taking out an original window on the back of a house on I don't remember the street, but within a block of this, that large house. This is only going to be seen by the property owners. Is that and with the dark color, I think it's going to melt away, and I have no problem with having access from outside versus an internal staircase. And I think the small scale and being totally enveloped by the primary structure makes this a point of someone in the backyard. And if new construction should differentiate from historic buildings in the district, but number 6 on new construction, how it should differentiate from historic buildings but be compatible. I think this works with that, and it allows the scale and the placement of the ADU is hidden by the main structure. And I wouldn't like to see the building get larger to accommodate an internal staircase, and I think it works. That's on my.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Hornaday. And, I think focusing on Mr. McDonough's point that the roof doesn't cover the stairway, I'm reminded of the sentence in on decks where it says decks are essentially uncovered porches, which is somewhat analogous. And it says locate decks in inconspicuous areas. And I think this is sufficiently inconspicuous so that it doesn't bother me.
So long as this doesn't create a precedent and that we still have the ability to be able to say in future, you can see this from the street. This does, feel distinctly more like a 2-story. I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't creating problems for ourselves down the road.
Yeah, this is not a body that follows stare decisis. So, we aren't bound by precedent, but I think just the discussion tonight does make it clear that we will often ask applicants, can you find something else in period X that is similar? So we will be influenced by it, but it's not binding precedent.
Well, I'll just remind you that there are plenty of examples, but the fact that the only examples we could use and present are examples that were reviewed and approved since the rewording of the guidelines regarding carriage houses made it kind of an impossible challenge. I mean, my property, I'm looking out the window, I have a 2-story ADU with a deck and a door. And there are plenty of examples. So, yeah.
Any further questions for the applicants? Okay, we'll now open the floor for public comment.
Mr. Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
There being no public comment, I will close the floor for public comment and ask for discussion by commissioners. Is anyone ready to make a motion?
So, like Commissioner Hornaday was saying, the fact that this property conceals that accessory structure, I think that does help the case. But I'm also concerned about, setting the precedent for a project that may have a very visible accessory structure and, a wraparound staircase. My concern, it is what it is. It's not going away, but I would be interested to hear if any other commissioners had anything to say about it.
Would it help if in the motion there's a wording about the discreteness of the second story access? Oh, a story and a half access.
I think it could help to mention the concealed nature of this particular accessory structure.
I think it would make sense if you're reading the reasons. You could probably just tag on something to letter H in that list. There's several standards in there about the accessory structure that are just verbatim from the standards, but you could add something easily to H that illustrates what you're speaking to so that it's clear.
Can I make a motion to we ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hornaday, you know where the motions are? Okay, cool. Okay.
I'm not on mute. Chairman, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, new construction worksheet, 4 pages, Exhibit B, project description, Exhibit C, site plans, floor plans, and elevation drawings, 5 pages, Exhibit C, section drawings, 3 pages, Exhibit D, context plan, Exhibit E, front door specifications, Exhibit F, 1917 Sanborn fire insurance map, Exhibit G, photographs of the subject and neighboring properties, 4 pages, Exhibit H, revised new construction worksheets, 4 pages, received March 1st, 2021, Exhibit I, revised plans, 9 pages, received March 1st, 21, Exhibit J, window specifications, 15 pages, received March 2nd, 2021. Exhibit K, siding specifications, 3 pages. I hope I'm not on mute. Received March 2nd. Exhibit L, did I finish that? Exhibit K, siding specification, 3 pages, March 2nd, 2021. Exhibit L, GIS map added by staff, March 9th, 2021. Exhibit M, revised drawings and plans, 24 pages, received March 24th, 2021. Exhibit N, lighting specifications and color rendering, received April 12th, 2021. Exhibit O, railing details, received March 14th. Exhibit P, help me, Alex.
Oh, that's it. Exhibit O is the last one.
Okay, and the part about, and the commissioner's actual inspection and review of the subject property by all members except everybody went. I move that the Commission approved the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. One, that the application is to, one, construct a two-story, 2,325 square foot primary structure. Structure will have a stucco foundation, smooth fiber cement lap siding with 6-inch revealed, smooth fiber cement shake siding with 6-inch revealed. Roof material will be asphalt, single, shingle, and weathered wood color. Windows will be Sierra Pacific H3 4/1 SDL double hung, 6 light SDL awning and 4 light casement, aluminum clad, in a color to be determined. Front entry door will be Rogue Valley wood 3 light over panel with single light side lights, and doors and side and rear elevations will be single light aluminum clad. A covered porch will extend front entry along the south elevation and will terminate in a 14 by 14 foot enclosed screen porch. Number 2, construction of a 1.5 story, 768 square foot 80 accessory structure behind new primary structure. All materials will match primary structure. Windows will be Sierra Pacific SDL aluminum clad 6 light awning and 4 light casement. 1 pair of garage doors will be constructed on the north elevation, and pedestrian doors will be single light aluminum clad 2nd story entry doors. Entry doors will be accessed by a wood stair and landing with a wood railing and 2-inch by 2-inch picket spaced 4.5 on center. Number 3, construct a stamped patio stamped concrete patio at rear elevation of primary structure, a 12-foot wide pea gravel driveway adjacent to the accessory structure. A pea gravel path will be extended from the front entry. Do you need the width of that path, Alex?
I put that as I listed out
question?
the conditions already, just to make
Okay.
it easier, that I thought would probably go in there. So we just need a site plan that just notes that.
Okay. Foundation plantings will be installed. Ground cover must be established within 15 days of completion of construction, and the remainder, 15 days. Remainder of the landscaping will be installed within 3 years. If archaeological resources are discovered during the work, all work will cease until city staff have been notified and have inspected the site. Adequate protection will be provided for all mature trees on the site during construction. All work will be in accordance with drawings and plans. All permits, variances, and approvals as required by law must be obtained before any work may commence. 2, the standards of new construction primary structures found on pages 92 through 93, carriage houses, garages, and accessory structures on pages 34 through 35, walkways, driveways, and off-street parking on page 50-51, landscaping and trees on page 40 through 41, fences and walls on pages 36 through 37, decks and pages 38 through 39, utilities and mechanical systems on pages 82 through 83, lighting on pages 42 through 43, and archaeology on pages 32 through 33 in the Montfort Historic Design Review Standards, adopted on April 14th, 2010, and amended on December 9th, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. Number 3, the application does meet the design guidelines for the following reason. New primary structure is cited so that to be similar to historic patterns in terms of orientation, setback, retention of green space, and spacing between structures. B, new primary structure is designed so that the overall character of the adjacent streetscape and building site is maintained. C, new primary structure is compatible in height, form, and roof form, scale, massing, footprint, material, detail, fenestration, and proportion with surrounding historic buildings and other historic buildings in the district. Location and size of windows and door openings are compatible in placement, orientation, spacing, proportion, size, and scale with surrounding historic buildings. Materials and finishes are typical of those found in the district. F, new accessory structure is compatible with the new primary structure in terms of height, footprint, and massing. New accessory structure is no more than 30% of the scale of the main house and is no taller than 1.5 stories. G, new accessory structures in keeping with historic pattern in terms of relationship to primary structures, traditional location of ancillary buildings, orientation, setback, retention of green space, and spacing between structures. H, new accessory structure has a traditional roof form, materials and details compatible with the main building and other historic accessory structures in the district. Is this where we insert and is?
Yeah.
And is concealed by the primary structure from view from the street.
Excellent.
I guess the stairwell is
Yeah, I
the
think you need
exterior
to.
staircase.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think you just need to relate it back to the stairs and or doors.
Yeah, the
or
exterior
whatever.
staircase is hidden from the view from the street. I, the new driveway and walkway will be dark colored pea gravel. J, mechanical units will be located on non-character defining elevations and will be screened. 4, the actions and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of Montfort Historic District.
Is there a second?
Second, Mitchell.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion passes.
You're on mute, Will.
Okay. Thank you all. Based on the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. 1, manufacturer specifications for all materials, including pedestrian and garage doors, mechanical unit, shake siding, and patio material be submitted for staff review and approval. 2, window color will be submitted for staff review and approval. 3, revised site plan showing width of gravel walkway will be submitted for staff review and approval.
Is there a second?
Second, Mitchell.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion carries. We will now move on to the first item of new business since the procedural matter, and that is local landmark 48 Patton Avenue, the Drew Moore Building.
Mr. Vice Chairman, Spendman Mitchell, as I indicated earlier, I need to exit the meeting at this point in time, and perhaps this is a clean break for us rather than getting partially into this.
Okay. Council, do we still have a quorum?
I'm not sure. It sounded that Alex had said there might be another commissioner joining us, and I'm not sure if that's the case now.
Yes, we're good. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. But I mean, if Ben has
Maybe
to
take a quick recess and establish that, but I step away.
That would be fine, Mr. Mitchell.
All right, thank you all for your time, and I apologize for my.
Hey, Alex, I've recused myself from this one before due to just my professional relationship with the owners. I don't know if that affects quorum or not.
It won't, right, Janice? We have
Right,
quorum.
recusal won't. So what, Ms.
Yeah,
West,
we're good.
we'll have to have a formal vote on that, but let's just check on who we have to make a
We're
quorum.
good on quorum.
Wait, I don't think we can have the formal vote without the quorum.
Right, we couldn't. So we have a quorum.
Yeah, we have 7, which we only need 6 actually, since we're down a commissioner now that I think about it.
Okay. Okay, then we can proceed. Mr. Eakins, I guess we need to have the vote on Ms. West recusing herself.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved, Vaughn.
Is there a second?
Seconded, Sprague.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner West, I guess you can vote on whether to recuse yourself.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion carries. So, Ms. Cole?
Thank you, Vice Chair Eakins. I think we have a couple of folks, or a few folks, that need to be sworn in for this item. Michael Logan is here. Amanda Warren, our special guest of previous HRC member, and Andrew Atherton.
Okay, I need to swear you 3 in. Please individually, swear or affirm after I read the oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
This is Amanda.
Yes.
Okay, that was all 3 of you, Michael, Andrew, and Amanda?
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay, let's go. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. So I made this one pretty brief because I feel like it's a pretty straightforward request at this point. So as we have some new commissioners who weren't here when when we last heard this application last year, but the Drummer Building is one of our 49 local historic landmarks. I'm sure most of you know this building. It's right in the middle of downtown. I can't remember how many original windows there are in this building, but there are a lot of them. And many of them have fallen into disrepair. So when this came to the commission before, a conditions assessment as required by Park Service standards had not been submitted at that time. So the commission was unable to make the determination as to whether or not any or all of the windows that were proposed for replacement needed to be replaced. So we encouraged the applicant to consult with a specialist who could conduct the assessment, which they have done. Michael Logan is here with us, who specializes in historic window restoration. And in your packet is a very straightforward, it's a little bit hard to read the keys because I think that they're lightly written, but the spreadsheet that's in the packet is keyed back to the building elevations that are in there. And so he verified, which sashes needed to be replaced and all the details that we needed to support the application. And so I'm not noting any concerns in my staff report. We appreciate the fact that they've gone to this effort to do the conditions assessment, and that makes the decision a lot easier, obviously. So happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Okay, if there are no questions for Ms. Cole, we'll proceed to the applicant.
All right, everybody. My name is Michael Logan. My company specializes in historic window and door restoration, and we've been doing that about over 10 years. So I was hired to do an assessment of the windows on the 3rd and 4th floor of the Drummer Building, and that included 46 total units. And we did a full assessment from the exterior. The firm rented a lift for us to use for that assessment, and the maintenance supervisor accompanied me on that assessment. The findings that were typical with conditions that we see in old windows that reflect deferred maintenance for many years, which is quite common with old windows. Even with this condition, I believe the windows are good candidates for restoration, as many of the original windows are present. Actually, on the 3rd and 4th floor, all but 6 of the original frames are present. So I recommended that the windows be restored to their original condition by removing the sash for transport to the shop. And then at the shop, they get stripped to bare wood. And we restore all the original hardware. Everything gets stripped to bare wood, like I said, and then we use all new linseed oil-based glazing, which is a traditional glazing putty that's long-lasting and appropriate for these windows. Any repairs necessary, we make using epoxy repairs or Dutchman repairs where possible. There are about 34 of the sash that will need to be reproduced. These are sash, for the most part, that had been replaced over the years, that had been replaced using inferior materials, as most new windows are made from. And construction, all the reproductions that I propose that happen would be would mimic the originals in joinery profiles and using the highest quality materials available today. In addition, there are those 6 full units that had been replaced sometime in the 90s with units that have finger jointed frames, which is a quite inferior frame material. And the quality of the sashes that were used are also not great. So those are literally disintegrating as we speak here. So I propose that for those 6 locations that frames be reproduced that mimic all the original design and function of the originals, including a pulley counterbalance system. And these would not alter or veer from the original design in any way. And as well as there's 2 units on the south elevation that are original frames, but they have an extreme case of deferred maintenance, and much of the wood is actually missing from being rotted away. The seal is completely missing. It's just straight on the concrete. So I would propose that those be reproduced as well to mimic what was there. A lift would be necessary due to caulking and painting, which is typical from windows that we work with. They're almost always painted shut. And yeah, that's about all I had. And I just wanted to take a second to introduce a colleague of mine, Amanda Warren. She's with Quercus Alba Preservation Consulting. And she was just going to add a couple things about window restoration in general.
Are you ready for me?
Yeah, ready.
Yes, Ms. Warren.
All right. Thank you for listening to us tonight, commissioners. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to read from a report that I have prepared for Michael Logan. I think it'll just cover as much information as possible, as concisely as I can. Point 1, replication of 6 full units and 34 individual sash that are unoriginal and replacement windows using existing and extant original windows to create matching profiles, dimension, perception of depth and shadow, and overall appearance. Sash to be replicated are not all from the same double hung units. There are individual sashes kind of pieced from different units throughout the building. Goal is that these units will blend seamlessly with the entire structure when viewed from street. Point 2, windows will not be removed in entirety for repairs. Only sash will be removed from site for use of workshop environment for expedience, access to tools and equipment, ability to control the working environment, and importantly for the safety to tradespeople as well as anyone on or near the job site. Point 3, window framing, trim, weight pockets, and sills will remain in situ. While it is not known that any of these components will require work beyond general or minor repairs as expected, but with deferred maintenance, that will always be a possibility. Barring a significant issue, it is expected that this kind of work will also be performed on site. Point 4, minor and small repairs will be treated using a variety of methods. The best method will be determined as the project moves ahead. This includes consolidation, epoxy, superficial fillers, treatment for fungal or pest damage, and other common issues that can be found in any type of wood. Point 5, wood requiring repairs larger than approximately 2 inches parallel to grain or 3/4 of an inch against the grain or penetrating through grain will receive Dutchman repairs with appropriate wood filler and epoxy systems. This is a standard and accepted practice within the preservation trades. Point 6, the window work proposed allows the property owners, should they wish to pursue it, the ability to qualify for some tax credits as the work will retain the historic and original materials while only minimally replacing pieces beyond repair. Point 7, work proposed by Michael Logan is in keeping with practices and methodology recognized and sanctioned by the Window Preservation Standards Collaborative, the National Association of Window Restoration Specialists, the Preservation Trades Collaborative, and speaking for myself as an executive on the board of the International Preservation Trades Network, I have asked our board and we all fully support the work proposed by Michael Logan.
Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant?
So the covered up windows on the eyebrow, is that the right word? Fourth story, those are being replaced with glass again, right?
All windows will be replaced, yes. Sorry, go Mike.
Yeah, the transom windows, those would all be removed for restoration and put back in. Is that what you're asking?
The picture on the right on the screen now.
Yes.
That'll have 3 by 3.
Correct. So the transom window, the top kind of semicircle windows would also be removed. So those are concealed from the interior due to the drop ceiling.
Gotcha.
So we would remove those from the exterior and put them back in. And
I'm glad y'all are doing this. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. I should also mention the glass. I propose that we paint the glass black on those upper windows to mimic the glass, but also hide what's behind there. Utilities and the air ducting and that sort of thing.
Are there further questions for the applicant? Okay, well, now we'll open the floor for public comment.
Mr. Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
There being no callers in the queue, we will close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, discussion?
I think this looks excellent. It makes me very happy.
Thanks.
Is anyone ready to make a motion?
You want me to take my turn? Vice Chairman, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, Drummer Building Landmark Ordinance, Exhibit B, photographs of other historic building examples, 8 pages, Exhibit C, aluminum-clad window specifications, 26 pages, Exhibit D, photographs of subject property, 15 pages, Exhibit E, additional examples of historic buildings with aluminum-clad windows, 12 pages, received June 26, 2020, Exhibit F, window conditions assessment, 36 pages, received June 26, 2020, Exhibit G, additional detailed drawings of proposed windows, 3 pages, received July 22, 2020. Exhibit H, window restoration estimate, received August 3rd, 2020. Exhibit 1, National Park Service guidelines on documenting, evaluating, and replacing original windows, 3 pages, received July 12, 2020. Exhibit J, email from Earth Home, received July 22, 2020. Exhibit K, revised description of work and elevation drawings, 4 pages, received March 18, 2021. Exhibit L, window inventory / conditions assessment, 2 pages, received March 18, 2021. Exhibit M, none. And the Commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except I move that this Commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1.
Commissioner Vaughn, can I interrupt you really quickly?
Sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask Michael, I wrote the CA to just reflect repair and replace as needed because that's commonly how we write this type of approval. But I just want to make sure we get the number of windows correct because I had put 54, but it doesn't sound like that I did the math right.
I think so. We did not assess the windows on the northeast corner that include the bowed windows. So
Okay.
those are not part of this assessment.
Okay, so it was 46. Was that the correct number?
That's correct. 46 units that we assessed.
Got it. So I amend that to 46.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Got it. Moving on. 1, that the application is to repair and replace as needed 46 wood windows on 3rd and 4th floors of north and east facing elevations, east and north facing facades on 3rd and 4th floors, and 2 original wood windows on rear elevation. All new sashes will be custom built to match existing in design, dimension, material, detail, and color. Repair and replace brick moldings as needed. Paint glass of the 4th floor transom windows black to screen ductwork from exterior view. All work will be in accordance with attached and approved drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. That the Secretary of the Interior standards, specifically the standards for windows, were used to evaluate this request. This application does meet the design guidelines for the following reasons. An in-depth survey of the existing conditions of the windows by a specialist in wood window restoration has been conducted. As much original material is being retained and preserved as possible. Sashed being replaced are extensively deteriorated. New units will match the original in configuration, material, and design detail. That the action and improvements proposed in the application before us call for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the local historic landmark.
Is there a second?
Second, Gardner.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry, she's recused.
Uh-oh.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye. You froze for a second there. Freaked me out.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye.
Based upon the
Motion passes.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with no conditions.
Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Gardner.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Eakins, aye. Motion passes. The next item is 250 Montford Avenue.
Thank you, Vice Chair Eakins. Michael, I will follow up with you. You guys are welcome to jump off the meeting and I'll follow up with you by sometime early next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes, Jeremy Cohen is the applicant for 2.
I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Cohen, I will swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and will be accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Okay, so
Alex?
the application for 250 Montford Avenue is for some window and door modifications. This is just a photo of the front elevation to provide some context. I'm just going to move around the building. So on the south elevation, this window that's circled is a non-original vinyl window. So he is proposing to replace it with a 6/1 wood window. That's the only change on that side. The north elevation, the proposal is to remove this 9/1 window and cover it with pebble dash. And then on the rear elevation, the current door and window configuration is not original, according to Mr. Cohen. And so he is proposing to add French doors where the previous door opening is existing from what they can tell, and then add a new wood 6/1 window here. And they'll also add a small 6/1 window on the basement level. So it's pretty straightforward, and I don't have any concerns based on the fact that all of these changes are on non-character defining elevations of the building. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, are there any questions for Ms. Cole? Okay, the applicant like to make a presentation.
No presentation at this time, and thank you, Alex.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we'll open the floor for public comment.
Mr. Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Being no callers in the queue, we will close the floor for public comment. Any discussion by commissioners?
I can make a motion if there's no other. Mr. Vice Chair, based upon the evidence presented to the commission, including Exhibit A, project description, elevation drawings, doors and window specifications, and photographs, 25 pages. Exhibit B, photograph of south elevation, received April 12, 2021. Exhibit C, there was no Exhibit C. And the commissioner's actual inspection of the subject property by all members. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to replace one vinyl 6/1 double hung window on the south elevation with new Marvin SDL 6/1 double hung window. Remove one vinyl 9/1 double hung window on the north elevation. Close opening and cover exterior with pebble dash matching existing material in texture and color. Remove one single pane door and one single light casement window on the first floor of the rear elevation, and install one Marvin SDL 6/1 double hung wood window and wood TDL multi-light French doors. Install one new Marvin SDL 6/1 double hung wood window and new opening on basement level of rear elevation. All work will be in accordance with attached and approved drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before any work may commence. 2, the standards for windows and doors found on pages 84 through 85 of the Montfort Historic District Design Review Standards, adopted April 14th, 2010, and amended April 9th, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. This application does meet the design guidelines for the following reasons. A, vinyl windows which are not appropriate for the district are being removed or replaced with wood windows. B, windows and door openings being modified on the rear and non-character defining facades of the building. C, new windows and doors will be wood and compatible with overall design of the building. Number 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous and with the special historic character of the Montfort Historic District.
There a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. Motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that the certificate of appropriateness be issued without conditions.
Is there a second?
Second. Sprang.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion carries. The next item is 25 Starnes Avenue. Is the applicant here?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy. I will follow up with you early next week, okay?
Thank you all for your time. That's a plan.
Thank you.
Okay, the applicant is Emily Brown. Ma'am, I'll need to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and accurate to the extent of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay, Ms. Cole?
Thank you, Vice Chair Eakins. So this application is also pretty simple, straightforward one. The house is a little bungalow style that has a non-original front door. So the applicant is proposing to replace the front door with a new wood door. And the second part of the request is that on the side elevation of the house, there are these kind of sweet little garage doors that are obviously in bad shape and need to be replaced. So they're proposing to replace them. It does not appear to me that these openings are it's kind of hard to tell whether they were original or not. So I've talked with Ms. Brown about whether or not those openings should be retained. And she had already completed the drawing before we just started discussing it. So I think if you all feel like the opening should be present on the new doors, that she is opening to hearing your thoughts on that. The issue with that is that what this opening behind has been kind of modified to where it's filled in, and there's a pedestrian door back here. And so making it visible to the exterior is not necessarily ideal. And I don't know that we could necessarily fully determine whether or not these openings have always been there or not. So we just kind of left that question open-ended for you all to discuss today. So I'm not noting any concerns in my staff report, as I think this is a pretty basic request. Any questions for me? I
Okay,
like
if there are
everybody
no,
in our HRC meeting. Sorry, that's not related, but
I have one question. Is the garage door design that's proposed, would that be wood like the front door?
Yes. Yeah, we would plan to do everything in wood. Yes. And try to do everything as closely as we could to the original design as we can. Yeah.
are there any further questions for Ms. Cole? Okay, it's normal at this time for the applicant to make a presentation. Ms. Brown, would you like to make a presentation?
No, I really have nothing to add. I do just want to clarify about what's behind there. So on the left-hand side, there is, so at one point, there was a window added to the left-hand side. And then to the right-hand side is a glass door. So if we were to put and I'm not planning on changing that. So if I were to put windows in there, that window and door, non-original, completely non-original, very ugly, bad shape, would be visible. I am, and Alex and I talked about it. Something I am willing to consider is putting the window, like making it look like their windows were there, but closing it in, if that's a possibility. So that's all I'd like to add. And I would definitely like to thank Alex for her time and everything she does. And thank you all for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, it's not stained. You're going to paint the garage doors, right?
Yeah, my plan is to paint them. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And I think I like them with the function behind them being another set of doors. I'm fine with them going to what appears to be original from looking at them, solid without lights. But that's my opinion. That if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer to do. It would be much easier, yes. But I want to do whatever you all think is appropriate.
Are there further questions for the applicant? There being none, we'll open the floor for public comment.
There are no callers in the queue.
There being no callers in the queue, we'll open the floor for commissioner discussion.
Does anyone feel like there needs to be lights on the doors?
I think they're acceptable as drawn.
I agree. Well, then let me make a motion, if that's okay.
Yes,
Vice Chair,
please proceed.
thank you. Vice Chair, based upon the evidence presented to the Commission, including Exhibit A, photographs, door specifications, and renderings, 10 pages, and the Commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except, I move that this Commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following: that the application is to replace non-original front entry door with new 6-light wood paneled door, replace deteriorated door trim with new wood trim, matching existing in dimension and design, rebuild existing deteriorating wood garage doors on east elevation per attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before any work may commence. 2, that the design standards for wood doors, for windows and doors found on pages 84 through 85, the Montfort Historic Design Review Standards adopted April 14th, 2010 and amended December 9th, 2019 were used to evaluate this request. This application does meet the design guidelines for the following reasons. Existing front door is not original or historic. Replacement door will be wood and compatible with overall design of the building. B, existing garage doors are badly damaged. New doors will match original material and design. 4, the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montfort Historic District.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, I'll now call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with without conditions.
Second by Spring.
Good. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. Motion carries. The next item will be 258 Cumberland Avenue. The applicant present?
I don't see her. Let me send her a note really quickly and see where she is.
Sarah, mine's been in the side of the chair the whole time, but you know, he must have sensed yours climbed up into your lap, so he felt mine needed to join.
Of course. Don't they always? My sweet girl has been sick lately, so all she wants to do is sit on my lap.
Well, since mine's this big, he always wants to be on my lap or right here. So,
Bill, do you want to maybe just take a brief recess and like maybe five minutes or something and see if she can? Oh, there she is. Okay.
Okay, good.
Good. Hi, Kim.
Ms. Goodspeed, we're going to need to swear you in before the application is considered. Ms. Goodspeed, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and accurate to the extent of your knowledge? I think you're on mute.
Kim, you're muted. Can you hear us? If you can, send me a note or maybe jump off and try rejoining or something.
Ms. Goodspeed, did you hear the oath?
Kim, we can see you now and it looks like you're unmuted. Can you
I can hear you guys. Yeah. Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
loud and clear. Did you hear the oath?
I did not. No.
Okay, Ms. Goodspeed, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and that you will be accurate to the extent of your ability and knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Alex?
Thank you, Vice Chair Eakin. So this application is for this little ranch house on Cumberland Avenue. This is the front elevation to provide context. I've added some photos in here just to help illustrate what we're talking about. So this is facing the back. So if you're looking at the back of the house, there's this little bump out on the right-hand side that is not original to the structure and is pretty small. And so they just are trying to enlarge the space a little bit for better usability. I've added an aerial photo in here to help you also see what it looks like if you didn't visit the site. So it's just this little bump out that they're going to extend a pretty small amount out into the back. So here's the floor plan, existing floor plan on the left and the proposed floor plan on the right. These are the elevation drawings if you're looking at the rear. I did meet on site today with Ms. Goodspeed, and I did note to her that I wasn't sure that the fenestration style being proposed was quite right for this more contemporary style structure. We talked about perhaps using casement windows with no muttons might be okay if you all feel like the sleeping porch style is appropriate to a house like this. Alternatively, there are these smaller double hung windows and these larger that are more newer double hung windows that are present on the building. So we did talk about potentially changing them to be double hung, more consistent with what's found on the rest of the building. So she's open to your thoughts on that. These are just quickly the other elevations, existing and proposed. And obviously this is not a contributing building to the district. So I am not noting any concerns except for that I just did ask for clarification on the proposed foundation and siding materials. The main part of the house has, I'm not sure. I think Ms. Goodspeed said that her contractor said it was wood, but I think if you look at the siding on this house, it sort of looks like that, like kind of masonite paneling that's made to look like a wood grain, like not a shake, but a more contemporary version of that. And then as you move around the house, on the back, you can't see it from this photo, but there's some vertical paneling, and it's a little bit unclear what that material is. It doesn't necessarily look like wood, but it could be just, some wood. What's the term isn't coming to my mind, like fabricated wood paneling. And there's also some faux board and batten on this side of the house too. So what we talked about today when I made the site visit was just saying in the CA that the siding would be vertical wood paneling matching what's here, and that if they get into the field and the material is different and they need to match it in some other way, that then they would just reach back out to me and we would proceed with potentially amending the CA approval if we needed to. And then the foundation will be CMU finished with stucco. So that is the information I have to share with you. If you have questions, happy to answer.
On those windows, what were you proposing, Alex? I missed that part a little bit. So you're proposing more of what's there to be a bank of 8 or 4?
Yeah, I think what I was envisioning was like maybe, 3 pairs of double hung windows, like what's there. The larger double hung windows, because obviously the goal is to have more light in that space. Alternatively, if the commission is okay with the awning windows, because they, like the idea of having something that will open, like an awning window would, I think that if just, throwing the option in there that they could, lose the dividers in the awning windows, if that would help and you all would be okay with the awning windows in that configuration. So those were just the couple of ideas that we talked about today in the field. But I think she's open to what you all think is most appropriate. I mean, the rest of the windows on the house are double hung. So.
Are there any further questions for Alex? Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I don't have anything extra to add. Hopefully the application and all the submitted drawings and photos are sufficient.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll now open the floor for public comment.
Mr. Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
There being no callers in the queue, we'll close the floor for public comment. Discussion by commissioners.
This is Commissioner Sprang. I do agree with Alex that there may be another way to address that bank of windows that's a little bit more congruous with the rest of the house. My vote would be for double hung windows, and the massing of those windows looks like slightly large for that one facade. So I might also recommend bringing the size down just slightly. So maybe so there's a little bit more siding to the left and right of the windows. But I think 1/1 double hungs is what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I agree with Commissioner Spring. I think Alex's idea of the windows would be my preference. And then I really like Emily's idea of having a little bit more siding visible.
So how many windows would the window would be wider, Commissioner Spring, and fewer? So there would be. What were you thinking? Just so
Perhaps if these are so it's kind of reading in the drawing like there are 3 doubles right now. Is that correct, Kim?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you kept that organization of 3 doubles, then I would say each one would just get slightly narrower. Or another option could be to switch to like 5 singles, but I would prefer to keep with the doubles because there's other instances of double windows on the home. So.
And you
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Hornaday?
It does. Yeah, that helped.
Mike, I have a quick question though. Would we be asking them to create custom windows to do this, or would that be a standard size to be smaller, Commissioner Sprang? I don't know enough about fenestration because I'd hate to.
Yeah. Typically the standard sizes are incremental. So they may be able to just go down a couple inches to the next standard size. And I mean, in addition to keep the proportions looking right, the sill height would probably have to come up a little bit as well. And I'm not recommending like a huge change, but maybe just an extra like 8 or 10 inches on each corner of the building for siding.
Thank you. I'm learning this stuff as we go along, so I appreciate that.
But 1/1.
I would say 1/1, yes. And as Alex was saying, oh, sorry, what was that?
And Alex could desk approve that, or is that something we have to decide now?
I am totally comfortable with that if you all are. I feel like because it's on the back and the windows aren't going to be in like a crazy different location than where they are now, and it's really just a matter of her identifying the correct size and submitting a revised drawing. I'm totally fine with reviewing that myself because I don't think that is a big enough change to warrant coming back to you guys if you all are okay with that, and especially that it's on a non-contributing structure. Not that it's not important to get the design right, obviously, but I think it would be such a minor change from what they're proposing now.
Is somebody ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I think I can make a motion, and I'll just put in the exceptions, we'll say that the revised drawing should be revised window selection should be submitted to staff. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
And is that for the French door and the other side too? Alex, can you scroll down one? Yeah.
So on this drawing, those 3 windows are the new proposed.
Right.
And we could, I would say, make those the 1/1 double hungs as well to keep it consistent. And I mean, the plus side is that also maximizes your view from the interior.
And then this is the other side where the doors are proposed. I mean, they could always do the lights without the dividers if you think that's more appropriate for the doors also.
If no one else has an opinion on it, I would probably do full view glass.
I would like to ask Ms. Goodspeed if she has any thoughts on this.
Thank you. I would, I'm okay with the double hung windows. I mean, we just want to get this addition done. So, you know, we want the most light to come in as possible and airflow as well. That's why we had picked casement windows, but I'm definitely open to doing what's going to move this through the quickest. As far as the French doors, you know, what we have proposed, I think just looks a little bit nicer than the full view. But again, at this point, we just want to be able to get this addition done.
Thank you.
So what is there a consensus on the doors? Because I just am like editing the motion. Make sure it's correct when someone makes it. I mean, I tend to agree that if the windows are going to be simplified to 1/1, that having the single pane doors probably makes the most sense from a consistency of the fenestration standpoint.
Kim, are you okay with that? If the commission agrees that that's appropriate?
I am okay with that. I guess, you know, this is all brand new to me, so I am a little bit confused by the language with the preference for this and then the need for it. So I'm just not sure about that, but you know, if that's what's needed, that's what we'll do for sure.
Yeah, I think just to answer that question to you, Kim, it's less about preference and more about what's appropriate to the building. And then also just thinking about like, well, if the 1/1 windows are more appropriate, then probably the, you know, the divided lights in the doors probably aren't appropriate either, is I think the thinking here. So I just want to reassure you that it's not about preference and, you know, someone liking something over something else. It's just more about what's appropriate to the structure. So.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Well, unless any other commissioners would like to give their input, I can make a motion.
Excellent.
Okay, Vice Chairman, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, photographs, door specifications and rendering, 10 pages, and the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members, I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to replace non-original front entry door with new.
Commissioner Spring, sorry, did you read all the exhibits? Did I miss that?
Maybe. This is one for, wait, no, I'm on the wrong Cumberland.
258 Cumberland.
So next one.
This is the 258 Cumberland.
Yeah, everybody's
Okay.
done that at some point.
Okay, Vice Chairman, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, project description, and engineer letter, 3 pages. This is the right one, right?
Yes.
Exhibit B,
Yeah.
drawings and plans, 11 pages. Exhibit C, photographs, 4 pages. Exhibit D, site plan. Exhibit E, site plan. Exhibit F, window specifications, 8 pages. Exhibit G, aerial image taken by staff, April 12th, 2021. Exhibit H, additional photo taken by staff, April 14th, 2021. And the commission's actual inspection of review of subject property I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to remove existing sunroom on rear elevation and construct a one-story, 252 square foot addition with smooth stucco foundation, vertical wood panel siding, and Timberline HDZ asphalt shingle roof matching existing. Addition will have Lincoln 1/1 double hung wood awning windows and 1 pair of Lincoln single light wood French doors. All work will be in accordance with attached and approved drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for non-contributing structures found on pages 68 to 69 of the Montfort Historic District Design Review Standards, adopted on April 14th, 2010, and amended December 9th, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. This application does meet the design guidelines for the following reasons. A, addition does not alter the architectural integrity of the structure. B, addition is compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the neighborhood, the building, and its environment. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for the certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montfort Historic District.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye, the motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued.
Do we have
With the
conditions?
following condition, that the selection of the double hung windows for the addition be submitted to staff for approval.
I think we need revised elevation drawings.
Okay, and revised elevation drawings be provided as well.
Is there a second?
Second, Hornaday.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye, the motion carries. Why don't we take a 5-minute break since that concludes the public hearings.
Thank you, Kim. I'll follow up with you early next week.
Thank you.
Okay, see everybody in 5 minutes.
Hey, Jessie, I didn't know if you were there, but I just wanted to point out this portrait behind me is Jake Childs, and was loaned to us by the Childs family to hang here at Childs House.
How cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And there's some books in this cabinet back here that were in this library that the Childs family gave us as well, just like a week and a half ago. They've been through Hurricane Hugo, so they're in pretty bad shape. But we have the photo that shows where in the bookcase here in the library they actually were. So we're actually accumulating things that have been in Child's house before. So
That's really cool. It's
Yeah.
so nice that you have that relationship with them and that they want those things to be there, which is just makes it really special.
right, they're talking about temporarily loaning us some of Leah's art and her father's art, Arkut's art, Casimir, and so those will probably sit here in the library because they're trying to determine what happened to those long term, but they're needing a place for them to be temporarily housed and taken care of. So
And what better place?
yeah, so we're
Yeah.
slowly becoming a museum house is what seems to be happening. So,
Are you going to charge admission at the door?
that's right. That's right.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Jim. Hi, Jessie.
Hi, Bill.
I just figured I'd grab this quick moment to say hi, Jessie. We're like neighbors across the lake from each other. So, Lake Sedimentation Committee. Ugh.
It's funny because it depends on which way the wind's blowing, I think, because sometimes you guys are out there and I've talked across to you just normal talking. And
Right.
other times you're out there and I'll yell and you don't seem to hear me. I think it's like if the wind's blowing the wrong direction or something, you can't hear me.
Yeah, that's because we look out there sometimes like, is that Mr. Jessie? I think that's.
If I'm weeding, it's me. Yeah, that's all I do these days.
It's that time of year.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
We're just waiting another minute or two till people come back from the break.
You guys do these marathon meetings. I'm so impressed at your stamina, let's say.
Well, we wanted to go out for recess so that we would pay special attention to what you have to say.
Very good. Thank you. Thank
I've
you.
learned the secret is snack carbs and 5-hour energy.
So you're all shaking and carved up and
That's why when I read the motions, they go really fast.
yeah, right. You do it with that theater voice. It's great.
It's my only
Totally.
chance to perform anymore right now.
That's right. Well, I promise I'm going to be super quick. I definitely wrote this with the thought in mind that you guys are usually here for 4 or 5 hours, so I don't want to contribute to that.
All right, we've
Well,
only been
apparently
here
that
2
was-
and a half.
Bill, there was apparently the necessary mutual uniform today, the green polo shirt with the emblem.
Yeah, it's. I wonder if I'll ever go back to the old shirt and tie routine. And the last time I put a suit jacket on, I had shorts down below where nobody could see.
Just as a suit should be worn.
Exactly. So let's see. I don't think I've got a full picture of who's back. Does it look like we've got most of the commissioners back? I'm basically just saying the 3 of us.
Yeah, we don't have a visual on Margot, but if she's here,
Okay, well let's wait. I'll assume that we're in good shape when I see Alex.
I am here, sorry. I'm just in the kitchen right now.
Okay. Just see if I can get the visual without suddenly shutting down the meeting.
Yeah, Alex is here, Bill.
Okay, good. Shall we start up again? Is everybody around? Alex, did you want to set the stage before the presentation? Now that we're moving on to new business, item A,
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to give some context to you all before Jessie jumps in to present to you. And I realize now, because things got really hairy with that one subdivision application, that I have not shared with you the draft resolution that that Jessie sent to me. So what I'll do is I'll just give my little talk first, and then when Jessie starts, I will share those documents with you. So I'm just sharing on my screen. What we're going to talk about is, as I'm sure most of you are aware of, this large multi-use development that is proposed on the block of Charlotte Street between Baird and East Chestnut. So as you can see on the site plan, see if I can zoom in a little bit. Is that helpful? Can you see that okay? So as you can see, there are, this is the proposed part of the proposed site plan. I'm just trying to give you some context. And Jessie may have some other documents in her presentation to share, but so there are, here, let me actually pull up map Asheville and I can show you in the GIS what we're looking at. So essentially that block has many historic buildings on it that front on Charlotte Street, Baird, and Furman. And then on the right rear corner is the Asheville Arms, which is a big apartment complex that is a non-contributing structure to the Chestnut Hill National Register District. And so most of the entire block is proposed for redevelopment, with the exception of some of the houses on the back corner. And so what we're going to talk about today is the National Register District and what effect demolishing 13 historic houses, as is what is proposed to create this new development, how that will impact the National Register district eligibility, as well as any potential eligibility for local district designation. And so I just wanted to provide that little bit of brief information. We're not going to talk about the design of the new structures or anything like that. We're just really limiting, since you all don't have purview over the new development, we're really just asking for the discussion to be limited on your thoughts around the loss of those historic structures on the block and how that would affect the historic district. And just so you all know, Chestnut Hill was designated way back when as a local district, but the district designation was overturned on a technicality, I think, related to the signatures required for moving the designation forward through the process. So it was a technicality, unfortunately, and that was way predated my time with the city, and I believe Stacy's as well. Stacy is supposed to join us if she can, but she had to be in another public meeting. So hopefully she'll jump on here at some point. But so that's all I wanted to say, really, is just to kind of give you guys some very basic groundwork for what we're talking about today. And I'll turn it over to Jessie, and I will I'll put a link to the documents that she shared with me in the chat so that you guys can open them.
Alex, I'm going to go ahead and try and share my.
Okay, yeah, let me try to stop sharing so you can kick me out of here.
Okay, let's see how that works. Oops, I don't think it went.
Jessie, do you see the present now button in the lower
Got
right?
it. Yeah, let's see. It's only letting me share a Chrome tab though.
It should ask you to ask you to identify the screen you want to share. So you
Okay.
select the screen.
Let me try that again. Here we
Yeah,
go.
it'll ask you if you want to share the screen or a window or a tab is what it
Got
should.
it. Well, it's not going. Let's see.
There you go.
Okay. Can you see the presentation? The presentation?
Yes.
All right. Good. Thanks, everybody. Your patience. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessie Landale, the Executive Director of the Preservation Society. Thanks for having me tonight. Just for a quick minute. As Alex just mentioned, there is a development that's currently working its way to City Council, and the current proposal includes the demolition of 13 historic homes that are all contributing structures to the Chestnut Hill National Register District. We do expect that that proposal may change slightly over time. They may remove a few of the houses from the proposal, but that's where it stands currently. And those homes are on Charlotte Street, East Chestnut, Furman, and Baird. So what we're doing is we're coming here to you tonight and requesting your support in the form of a resolution opposing the demolition of any substantial number of these homes in consideration of the damage that such a demolition would have in the National Register District. And Alex already showed us a little bit of the block, but this kind of gives you an idea of how large the space we're talking about is in the district. There are four privately owned homes over here on the corner of Baird Street that are not included in the demolition, and also the Asheville Arms, which is that apartment complex on the corner of Furman and East Chestnut that is owned by the developers, and is not a contributing structure to the National Register District, but is not planned for demolition at this time. And also I should note that the home here, right about here on East Chestnut, is a Richard Sharp Smith design. So tonight, this is the resolution we have for you, and I'm just going to go through it quickly. Whereas the homes at 121, 123, 125, 129, and 135 Charlotte Street, 3, 15, 19, 23, and 25 Baird Street, 132 and 134 Furman Avenue, and 276 East Chestnut are contributing structures to the Chestnut Hill National Register of Historic Places District. And whereas the proposed 101 Charlotte Street development includes plans to demolish some or all of these homes, and whereas the current condition of these homes does not necessitate their demolition, and whereas economic hardship does not necessitate their demolition, and whereas there are no unusual or compelling circumstances that necessitate their demolition, and whereas the demolition of any substantial number of contributing structures within the Chestnut Hill National Register of Historic Places District would result in the loss of the integrity of the historic district, possible reduction of district boundaries should they be reevaluated, loss of embodied energy in existing buildings, loss of distinctive building forms and styles, loss of opportunity to utilize investment incentives such as historic preservation tax credits, and loss of tangible connections to the people and families that lived here before us, built our city, and made it the place we love and treasure today. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Historic Resources Commission of Asheville and Buncombe County opposes any substantial demolition of homes for the proposed 101 Charlotte Street development. So as I said, I would keep it very short, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Jessie, quick question for you.
Yes.
The number of homes you're talking about demolishing versus the number in the district. I know most of these, based on what we're trying to do around Childs, was based on a formula. How close does that put you to the formula where you could lose your overall historic designation as a district?
That is a really great question. I don't have the answer to that. I think when I did look into it, I think the big concern is that it might mean that they shrink the district boundaries, that it might cut off a whole corner of the district. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it'll necessarily result in the loss of the district overall.
Right. But the people who are in that portion that might get shrunk would lose their designation, their tax benefits, et cetera, et cetera.
That could be possible, yes.
Got it. So that would be an economic taking, in essence, from those people that they would not be compensated for.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think to add to this conversation too, it's important from the perspective of this commission that, I think this resolution is a good idea and important because I feel like your voice here will be important to hopefully avoiding setting precedent for other developments that would encroach onto the historic districts, because this is a very hot topic. We have gotten contacted about other developments around this particular corridor, you know, about that involved some demolition, not as extensive as this, but still, the more we chip away, obviously, the more we chip away. So I think I'm really thankful to Jessie for posing this idea. I think it's a good one, and I do want to point out too that, you know, obviously if losing character from the National Register standpoint also then potentially chips away at eligibility for local district designation should that be pursued again.
And I will say that I've heard from a lot of the neighbors interest in pursuing that again. It's something that we've put some thought into and decided it's not the right time. There's too much happening, but that I do think it's something that you're going to see happening in the next year or so. I can see the neighbors wanting to make a move like that.
Mm-hmm.
Alex,
Now,
is there
am I right that the Von Ruck House is one of these 13 structures?
The Von Ruck House is not one of these 13 structures. It is owned by the same developers. The
Von Ruck House is a local historic landmark, so the commission does have purview over that structure, just FYI.
The Killian families owned these properties for a really long time, including the Von Ruck estate. And then about a little more than a year ago now, they partnered with a development group called RCG, who did take part ownership in the Von Ruck estate in addition to these 13 properties that we're talking about tonight.
Alex or Stacy or Shannon or Janet, is there what's the most recent example of this large of a demolition threat to like a full city block? Is there one?
I've personally never seen a demolition this extensive before.
I haven't either, not in my time with the city.
And Stacy's been here longer than I have, just to clarify.
Does the proposed resolution say something about the extent of the demolition?
So what the wording I used is any substantial demolition of contributing structures in the National Register District. And the reason for that is I do believe that when these developers submitted this plan, that they sort of gave us the worst case scenario, and they wanted to leave some room for themselves to step back from that. So I believe that they will be coming forward with a plan that intends to demolish some portion of these homes. And I believe it'll be substantial. But I think it might be reasonable to expect that they will give up the demolition of the 2 on Furman, for example. So that's why we wanted to leave the language a little bit loose, so I didn't have to come back and ask you guys for another resolution if it was to be 11 houses instead of 13.
Very strategic.
I did want to ask Stacy, and I haven't had a chance to chat this week, but I wanted to, Stacy, do you think we should add anything to the resolution related to potential issues around the eligibility of a local district?
I mean, I think if that's part of your discussion tonight and the commission wants to add it, I think that's fine to add.
What about noting the intention of a potential future local district?
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. Like if since you all discussed that, and that does seem to be the intention, that maybe you can add that, and then you can clarify that this may affect that local district designation. I think that's probably appropriate.
I just forwarded the document to all of you. For whatever reason, Google Drive is not letting me open it or share the link in the chat. Don't open the link I sent you in the chat because you'll then be reading all my crazy emails from the last couple of days and prepping for this meeting. But I can, I just forwarded so you can just read it again if you would like to, and I'm going to print a copy so I can certainly add some language if it's helpful while we're talking related back to what we were just saying about the local district. Or you guys can freestyle it too if somebody wants to just take a stab at reading it and adding some language related to the local district.
Alex, this is Janice. I was just looking at it. It might fit into the very last whereas. So it starts out by saying the demolition of a substantial number of contributing structures would result in the loss of integrity of the historic district. And that's when Jessie said, and reduce the boundaries. And somewhere in there say, and may affect the ability for this area to qualify as a local district in the future. Just
yeah, that makes sense. I'll just
local
add that
historic
as the third
district.
thing, as the third, or when it's read, I guess if we could just I'll put the language in the chat. That'll probably just make it a lot easier.
And I just wanted to add, just procedurally, well, we're not in quasi-judicial now, but I've looked at this before. This is squarely, even though this is not a local historic district, it's certainly within your purview as the Historic Resources Commission to be commenting on historic properties and what happens to them in the city and in Buncombe County. But I do want the commissioners to know that this is a request for a resolution. It's not a resolution that was coming from the staff. So you're not obligated to pass a resolution, but and what council would do with this, again, you're not really impacting the ability of the development to move forward, but it could be one piece that's considered. So just wanted to make that clear, that it is within your purview and it is your option to agree to pass the resolution or not.
So I have a question. If the commission does decide to pass it, it would be shared with council, but it would also be shared with like the Planning and Zoning Commission during the review of the project. I don't know.
I would think that would need to be added to the planning staff's
we would add it as
staff
a
report.
to the staff report.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that was the intention also, if you all are to adopt it.
Does anybody have any further thoughts on whether we should adopt this resolution and whether we should keep the wording exactly as proposed? It seems to me this is central to our purpose, and that we should pass the resolution, and I'm perfectly pleased with the language as it is, but let's hear what people have to say.
I agree that it's. I support the resolution.
I support the resolution, and I would also add that clause about hindering the potential for future local designation.
I completely agree. I think that thinking to the future is very important here, but I definitely agree with everything that's been said.
As well as
I support it as well.
James had mentioned the potential loss of constricting the district would negatively impact people's ability to get that tax credit for their work. Is that in the resolution, or can that be, or is that too dicey?
There is some language about that.
Jessie, would you mind sharing your screen again with the resolution?
Sure. It went so smoothly last time.
Yeah, you have a good line in here. It says loss of the opportunity to utilize investment incentives such as historic preservation tax credits. So that's
can everyone see it now?
clause.
Can you all see it now?
No.
Oh,
Okay, trying again. Okay, here we go.
yeah, we-
There, now you should have it.
Right. We don't want to risk, over engineering, over wordsmithing, but we just want to make sure that it's clear to the average person just skimming through this that, hey, you could be people could lose their tax credit, possibility if. Now, there's a lot of ifs in there, so we have to be careful too, because, we're arguing facts that aren't necessarily in evidence yet. It's just, speculation that could happen. No one has yet proposed. You do this and automatically we're going to come in and reevaluate you, unless you're telling us that if you do this, that triggers something with the National Register where they come in and say, we have to re-examine your district and see if you still qualify.
Yeah, could we change this to loss of opportunity for people in the neighborhood to utilize investment incentives? That's slushy enough, so we're not issuing a tax opinion or something.
Right.
Within the Chestnut Hill National Register district.
Right, but we could be creating a historic district at some point in the future. I just as soon leave it a little bit slushy in that language for that reason. Maybe somebody who doesn't quite live in the National Register district might get the idea that this could hurt them down the road, and we need all the support we can get for this.
It's also potential loss of opportunity because it
right.
Certainly, of course, if the ones are demolished, they're gone, but the other, it may not. So potential loss of opportunity for people. Is that what you said, Bill? For people within?
Yeah, I just said in the neighborhood rather than getting precise.
Right.
In the district.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be in the district because there's a possibility of a future district, isn't there? Or there's a possibility of boundary changes, whatever. We could just leave it vague.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is somebody ready to make a motion? I think we have a pretty good consensus of what we're doing.
I added some language in the chat. I didn't word it entirely correctly, so there's a little second blurb, but if somebody wants to add that, maybe after possible reduction of district boundaries, should they be reevaluated? Janice, does someone on the commission need to read the resolution again? Or should they just make a motion to adopt the resolution?
Since it's not.
Yeah, actually, it's the motion's not written exactly, but it should be motion to adopt the resolution opposing the substantial demolition of homes. So if this were written for council under the now therefore, it would say the Historic Resources Commission hereby adopts the resolution, and then read the rest of it. Does that make sense? We can write it differently, but.
Jessie, is there urgency on this, or would it be okay for us to come back next month where they've written this out for us properly to do this? I'm happy to do this tonight. I just, I just want to be respectful of your time commitment.
It's a great question. I would say that we don't believe it's going, it just depends on the timeline of the developers. I don't think we'll see it at P&Z in May, but we might. And so I would hate for us to be in a position where, we were a little bit tight, especially if it's going to be for P&Z. If it's only for council, I think we're safe. But if there is potential that they could be at P&Z in May.
So it is important to have it be part of the consideration for P&Z.
Yeah, I think we should have it before then. So I don't have it in an editable format right now, so I can't add anything.
I can email it to you.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why if Google just doesn't like it. I mean, I can usually open Word documents, but for whatever reason it doesn't.
Can you open it as a Google Doc, Alex? Can you open it as a?
It's not
Oh,
letting
okay.
me open it at all. That's why
This sometimes happens. So as you know, even at council where we don't have the resolution, it needs a few changes. But as long as the motion is to adopt it, and as we've mentioned these amendments, we'll write this amendment and get it signed by the chair. If somebody wants to make that, feels comfortable that it's in close enough form.
I think we still need to have it back up on the screen, Jessie, for someone to read.
Yes, I can do that. And Alex, I just emailed it to you as well.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
I
should
can't
we
see
take it-
any of you when I have it on the screen, so that's why I keep putting it away.
And
So should we
typically you
take it-
don't have to reread the whole resolution like you do with your quasi judicial. You would just be reading. So that say when it's council, they have a resolution, they say a motion to adopt the resolution. Now, if you want to say the resolution as amended, but basically the resolution, adopt the resolution to, and then jump to the bottom line to oppose the substantial demolition of homes for the proposed 101 Charlotte Street development.
Is somebody ready to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Sorry.
So I guess it would go. I motion to adopt.
Move.
I move.
You move to adopt.
I move to adopt the resolution opposing any substantial demolition of homes for the proposed 101 Charlotte Street development.
And adopt the resolution as amended, as we've, because there were those few amendments.
Okay. As amended during this hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gardner,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Eakins, aye. The motion carries. The resolution carries.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, commissioners, and we really appreciate the resolution as well. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessie.
We now move on to what we renamed last month as the Historic Resources Champion Award nominations.
So it's been a little while since I forwarded it, but the only nominations that I got were from Commissioner Vaughn. I think I added that email to the folder. James, I'm going to try to find up your email. Here it is. So hopefully y'all took a minute to read through the email that he composed. He would like to submit Mr. George Taylor and Mr. George Gibson for the award. He noted that they embody the spirit of the award to be champions. And so their work is, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to read this whole email while I'm trying to talk at the same time, but Mr. Gibson is the one who's passed away, correct? The gentleman, nope, reverse. Okay, sorry. They both did have contributed substantial work to maintaining and caretaking of the South Asheville Cemetery, which is one of our historically African-American cemeteries where many unidentified grave sites are present from the Smith McDowell property, slaves who worked on the property there, or enslaved persons that worked on the property there. And so it's got a very old and rich history. And so James is proposing to nominate both Mr. Taylor, who has passed away, and Mr. Gibson, who is still alive, but he is he 96? Is that what you're?
94, 93, something like that.
Okay.
By the way, I think this is a local historic landmark, is it not?
It is. It
Yeah,
is. And incidentally,
I forgot to mention that in the email.
Incidentally, I received in the mail today the National Register nomination for the South Asheville Cemetery and the St. John Baptist Church that is connected with the property. So this will be on an upcoming agenda for review, just an advisory capacity. But yes, it is a very important historic resource to the community. So, with that, if there's anyone else who would like to make a nomination, you can do so, obviously, or you all, can certainly just vote to award Mr. Taylor or Mr. Gibson, whatever you prefer.
Since I'm on the board, I don't know if I need to recuse myself from this or not. So I look for advice.
Dennis, since this is just awarding, giving an award, he doesn't need to recuse for that, right?
You're on the board for the
South Asheville Cemetery Association, which is why we're honoring Mr. Taylor and Mr. Gibson because of their work on the cemetery.
No, it's not the kind of matter that you'd need. I don't see a conflict there.
Okay, just wanted.
Yeah.
Well, then, unless someone else has a nomination, then I'm happy to offer a motion, just in the interest of time, because it's been running late, that we award this to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Gibson.
For a second?
Second, Hornaday.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Mercedes? Commissioner Gardner?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Sprang?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Heck yeah.
Vice Chair Eakins? Aye. The motion carried. Are there any comments from commissioners, public, and staff? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I just want to quickly say thank you to Commissioner Hornaday for his work on the award itself. And thank you, Commissioner Vaughn, for taking time to draft the email. It was really helpful. Sometimes folks are nominated and we don't have a lot of information shared. So it was nice to have that. So thank you.
My pleasure.
I want to congratulate Commissioner Gardner for getting a shot in her arm.
Hooray!
First or second?
My second one today.
Ooh,
I'm
yes.
exhausted and I'm already feeling it.
Oh no.
You young people, us oldsters got our second and felt nothing.
Yeah, it supposedly means it's working better if you have some kind of reaction. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Unanimous. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.